Hello students, welcome to the second theory session of atoms and molecules. And in this session we'll be continuing with the laws of chemical combination. In the previous session we discussed about law of conservation of mass, right, which is a very simple statement and which states that matter can neither be created nor be destroyed, or the total mass remains conserved in a chemical reaction or in a physical change, you can say. Now in this session we'll be discussing about the second law, that is the law of constant proportions. Right? So let's start our theory session here. What is this law of constant proportions? The law of constant proportions was given by Proust in 1779. And it states that in a chemical substance, the elements are always present in a definite proportion by mass. That is in any chemical compound. So if you take the example of water or chlorine or hydrochloric acid or ammonia, the elements are always present in definite proportion by mass, or it can be explained as the ratio of masses of different elements in a compound, no matter by whatever method it is prepared or obtained from different sources, remains always the same. That is a ratio of mass of different elements in a compound. That also remains the same. Let's take up example. Say water. A water molecule, that is what? H2O. It consists of two hydrogen atoms, each of relative mass of 1. See, the atomic mass is relative, that is, it is related to the mass of carbon 12. Right? 1/12 of the mass of carbon atom. We'll be studying about it in details later. For example, a water molecule consists of two hydrogen atoms, each of relative mass of 1, and one oxygen atom of relative mass of 16. Relative mass means it is related to the mass of C12 atom. The atomic mass of an element indicates the number of times one atom of that element is heavier than 1/12 of C12 atom. That is, the number of times the atom of this particular element, that is hydrogen, is heavier than 1/12 of mass of carbon 12 atom, or 1/12 of C12. This is a relative unit. Now if we just take some sensible unit of measurement, we can put it as a gram. So it suggests that, or it means that there are 2 grams of hydrogen and 16 grams of oxygen in a sample of 18 grams of water. See, what is the molecular mass of water? It will be equal to the mass of hydrogen with some unit, that is 2 grams, plus the 16 gram. We'll be dealing with this atomic weight in details in our coming sessions. So the molecular mass of water is equal to 18 grams. Now in this 18 gram of water, how many grams of hydrogen are there? 2 grams. And how many grams of oxygen are there? 16 grams. So what is the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen by mass? It is 2:16, or I can write it as 1:8. That is what this law of constant proportion is saying, that elements in a compound combine in a definite ratio or in a fixed ratio. And do remember, this ratio is fixed. This will be the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen by mass in rainwater also, in tap water, in river water, in lake water. From wherever water you are getting, the ratio by mass of elements, that is of hydrogen and oxygen will be the same. That is 1:8. This is what is law of constant proportions. So water from any source will have hydrogen and oxygen in the ratio 1:8 by mass. Similarly, nitrogen and hydrogen in ammonia are present in 14:3 by mass. That is 14:3 ratio by mass, irrespective of the source. From where this 14:3 has come? Formula of ammonia is what? NH3. Now the atomic mass rounded off to the nearest integer and the some unit of measurement of nitrogen comes out to be 14 grams. That is, the mass of nitrogen is taken as 14 grams. And what is the mass of hydrogen? It's 1. So how many grams of hydrogen are there? 3 grams. So what is the ratio of nitrogen and hydrogen in ammonia? It's 14:3. Right? So from wherever you are getting ammonia, what will be the ratio by mass of nitrogen and hydrogen? It would be 14:3. Right? Or ratio of nitrogen to hydrogen by mass, it would be 14:3. Likewise, carbon and oxygen are present in carbon dioxide in the ratio of 3:8 by mass, irrespective of the source. From where this 3:8 has come? Let's take up. See, carbon dioxide. What is the mass of carbon? It's 12. What is the mass of oxygen? It's 16. So it would be 16 multiplied by 2. So we'll be getting here 12 by 32. Right? Now, just simplify it. What will be the thing? It would be 6:16 first. Then again, it would be 3:8. We'll keep on simplifying it. So what is the ratio of carbon and oxygen in carbon dioxide by mass? It is 3:8. Whatever is the source. So what this law of constant proportion or definite proportion states? That elements combine in simple whole number ratios in a compound, and that the ratio remains fixed whatever is the source of that particular compound. Do remember this. So this is law of constant proportion, and it's very simple, students. So if I'm taking carbon monoxide, what will be the ratio of carbon and oxygen in this by mass? Mass of carbon is 12. Mass of oxygen is 16. So it will come out to be 12:16, or 2:6:8, or further it can be simplified as 3:4. So the ratio of carbon to oxygen by mass in carbon monoxide is 3:4. Whatever is the source, whether it is a pollution, that is by the gases produced by automobiles or by industries, or it is manufactured in a laboratory, or it is prepared in the laboratory, the ratio of carbon to oxygen, this oxygen by mass, will be 3:4 only. Right? So this is the law of constant proportions. Now let's do some numericals related to this. The question is, in an experiment, 1.288 gram of copper oxide, it's point, it's not comma, of copper oxide was obtained from 1.03 gram of copper. In another experiment, 3.672 gram of copper oxide on reduction gave 2.938 gram of copper. Show that these figures verify the law of constant proportions. What is the law of constant proportion? That the elements combine in a small whole number ratio to form a compound. First thing. Second thing, that the ratio of the elements in a compound by mass, or the ratio by mass of elements in a compound, remains the same irrespective of the source. Now let's find out the ratio of copper and oxygen in both the samples of copper oxide. Say if I am taking the first sample of copper oxide, what it suggests that, or what it is saying that copper oxide, say CuO, this was obtained, how much of copper oxide? It is 1.288 gram. Copper oxide 1.288 gram was obtained from 1.03 gram of copper. So copper in this is 1.03 gram. So what will be the mass of oxygen in it? Simply, the total mass is 1.288 minus the mass of copper will give what? Will give the mass of oxygen. So what will be the answer of this? Just subtract it and you'll be getting 0.258 grams. So in copper oxide, mass of copper is 1.03, oxygen is X. So what is the mass of oxygen? It is 0.258. It is simple math calculation you can do. Now let's find out the ratio of copper and oxygen in this. So the ratio of copper and oxygen by mass. What is the mass of copper? It's 1.03. What is the mass of oxygen you are getting? 0.258. Right? We can just simplify it, just round it off, you'll get 4. Right? Or 4:1. So what is the ratio of this copper and oxygen by mass, or ratio of mass of copper and oxygen? That is equal to 4:1. In what? In copper oxide. Right? I'll write it here. Ratio of copper and oxygen by mass. By mass. 4:1 by mass. Right? So from wherever copper oxide is obtained, the ratio should be 4:1. Now in another experiment, what is it saying? 3.672 gram of copper oxide on reduction gave 2.938 gram of copper. So let's find out the mass of oxygen in this sample. What is given? Mass of copper oxide, it is 3.672, and mass of this thing, copper obtained, is equal to how much? 2.938. Now what will be the mass of oxygen? So mass of oxygen will be equal to mass of copper oxide, that is 3.672 minus 2.938. That will give the mass of oxygen in this sample. So what will be the answer? It will be just subtract it and you'll get 0.734 gram. Now what will be the ratio of copper to oxygen by mass? So copper is how much? 2.938 and oxygen is 0.734. Just round it off and find out. Just round it off. Approximately you'll be getting here also 4:1. So in both the samples, copper and oxygen are present in the ratio of 4:1. Right? So in the first sample was obtained by oxidation of copper, and the second sample of copper oxide on reduction gave some copper. So in both the samples, the copper and oxygen are present in the ratio of 4:1 by mass. So it verifies the law of constant proportions, right? Understood this? So students, from this particular law, these numericals are asked. So do practice these numericals. They are not very difficult. They are very simple numericals. This numericals must have started for you in this grade only. That is grade 9. From grade 9 only these numericals start related to this chemistry. So don't get horrified. It's simple subtraction, multiplication and division. That's it. Of numbers given, of masses given, or of volumes given. Let's take up another example. There's another question here. Hydrogen and oxygen combine in the ratio of 1:8 by mass to form water. What mass of oxygen gas would be required to react completely with 3 grams of hydrogen gas? It's a very simple question. See, how many grams of hydrogen react with 8 grams of oxygen? Or we can say that 1 gram of hydrogen combines with 8 grams of oxygen to form how much? 1 molecule of water. Right? So, how many grams is asked? It is 3 grams. So, 3 grams of hydrogen will combine with how many grams? It's 8 by 1 into 3. So, it will combine with 24 grams of oxygen. So, the answer is 3 grams of hydrogen will combine with 24 grams of oxygen to form what? Water. Right? So students, the ratio remains the same. So what is the ratio again here? It's 1:8. And which law is there? Law of constant proportions. Let's take up another question. Question is, when 3 grams of carbon is burnt in 8 grams of oxygen, 11 grams of carbon dioxide is produced. Right? It means in 11 grams of carbon dioxide, what is the ratio of carbon to oxygen by mass? It is 3:8. In carbon dioxide, what is the ratio if I take up simple? What is the mass of carbon? It's 12. Mass of oxygen is 16 and 2 atoms of oxygen are there. So it would be 32. Now it comes out to be 3:8 only. So in carbon dioxide, what is the ratio of carbon to oxygen by mass? It is 3:8. Right? Now what is it saying? 3 grams of carbon is burnt in 8 grams of oxygen to produce 11 grams of carbon dioxide. What mass of carbon dioxide will be formed when 3 grams of carbon is burnt in 50 grams oxygen? It's a very, very simple question, students. It's just tricky. 50 grams oxygen is given to confuse you. See, whatever is the mass of oxygen available, may it be 100 grams, may it be 1000 grams, it's that 3 grams will combine with 8 grams only. Right? Why so? Because in carbon dioxide, carbon and oxygen are present in 3:8 ratio by mass. So ratio will not change. Whatever is the mass of oxygen given to you. If it's 3 gram of oxygen, it will not form carbon dioxide. If it's 8 gram of oxygen, it will form carbon dioxide. Right? So do remember, whatever is the mass available, just it will combine, one element combines with the another element in the smallest ratio, and that ratio remains the fixed. The amount of element in the compound remains fixed, whatever is the source. So in this case, this 3 gram of carbon will combine with 11 gram of oxygen. Sorry, 8 gram. I'm so sorry. 3 will combine with 8 gram of oxygen, because in carbon dioxide, carbon and oxygen are present in the ratio of 3:8 by mass. Now, what will happen to the remaining oxygen? It is 50 minus 8. What you will be getting? It will be 42 grams of oxygen. Now, this oxygen will remain unreacted. Right? I hope this question is clear to you. It was a very simple question. Just keep one thing in mind. Elements combine in a simple ratio, and that the ratio of the elements in a compound remains fixed. That's it. This is another question, students. It is a 0.24 gram sample of compound of oxygen and boron was found by analysis to contain 0.096 gram of boron and 0.144 gram of oxygen. Calculate the percentage composition of the compound by mass. How will you find out the percentage composition? It's very simple. As you have found percentage compositions in just maths, as you find percentage in maths. So percentage composition of boron in this compound will be equal to how much? 0.096 upon the total mass, that is 0.24, multiplied by 100. What you'll get? Just round it off. You'll be getting 4% or 40% over here. Likewise, say if boron is 40%, the remaining is 60% to make it 100. So the percentage of oxygen will be 60%. Still, let's solve it. Percentage of oxygen, that this is by mass, right? It would be 0.144 divided by 0.24 into 100. Now again, just round it off. You'll get it here 60. Make it 150, make it 25. Approximately you'll get this. Just do the calculations like this, and you'll be getting 60% by mass. So boron and oxygen are present in this compound of oxygen and boron in the ratio of 40% and 60%. Right? So this is the way we can find the percentage compositions also. There's another question here. The percentage of copper and oxygen in samples of copper oxide obtained by different methods were found to be the same. This illustrates the law of, which law it illustrates? It illustrates the law of constant proportions, which states that the chemical compound always consists of same elements combined together in same proportion by mass. From wherever you obtain this copper carbonate, it's this copper oxide, the ratio of copper to oxygen by mass will remain the same. Right? This is what it is saying. So it is illustrating the law of constant proportions. Right? The next question is, chemical equation is balanced according to the law of. We have not done the balancing of chemical equations, but I'll simply tell you one thing. That is, say this hydrogen and chlorine, they are combining to form HCl. Now the mass of reactants should be equal to the mass of products. That is, matter is neither created nor destroyed. The total mass is conserved. So what do you have to do? For balancing it, you have to just make a 2 here. Right? So that the number of atoms of each element on both the sides, or on the reactant and the product sides, are equal. So this is balanced according to the law of conservation of mass. That is the first law of chemical combinations. So it is according to the law of conservation of mass. Right? So the equations, chemical equations, are balanced according to the law of conservation of mass. Total mass remains conserved. Got my point? So these are certain things about the laws of chemical combination. There are 2 more laws that you'll be studying in your higher grades. Now students, in order to explain these laws, Dalton proposed his theory. Now what these laws state? That they say elements, they combine together in the same proportion by mass. Means, what are these elements composed of, which are combining in the similar proportion by mass? Or what are all these things? Now in order to explain these laws, Dalton proposed his atomic theory, or Dalton proposed a theory to explain the nature of matter, which is a very important theory, and which is called as Dalton's atomic theory. So we'll be discussing about Dalton's atomic theory, about its drawbacks, in our next session. So I'll be concluding this session here, students, and I hope you have understood this. Do practice the numericals. Numericals are not very difficult. They are very easy. Just put in the logic. First thing, that the mass of reactant should be equal to the mass of products. The total mass is conserved. Second thing, that the elements combine together in the fixed ratio by mass to form a compound. It doesn't matter from where you're getting that compound. So if you're keeping these 2 things in mind, you can easily solve any numerical you're getting from this topic. Right? Thank you, students, for listening patiently. I hope you have enjoyed this session. Do attend the next session, in that we are going to discuss Dalton's atomic theory. So goodbye and have a nice time ahead.